G'day, my name's Tom Dawkins and I'm the co-founder and CEO of StartSomeGood.com. StartSomeGood is the world's leading crowdfunding platform for social change. We've helped over 400 projects raise $3 million to make a difference in the world. And we've done so with one of the highest success rates in the industry, with 55% of projects reaching their goals and therefore actually collecting the funds that they need to make a difference. Let me tell you a secret about crowdfunding. It's not actually about crowds at all. Crowdfunding is a peer-to-peer fundraising method. There's no magical crowd out there just waiting to shower money on your project. Crowdfunding requires work, it requires effort, it requires intention for you to go out there and share your story with people and invite them to come back and support you. So you have a ticking clock, a deadline, and you have a challenge that you have to overcome before that time runs out. That's a game. That's how games work. That there's a challenge you have to succeed at before the time runs out or you lose the lot. And that's how crowdfunding works. By introducing that element of risk, by introducing that game, it is uniquely effective at turning people from just donating to also advocating on behalf of your project. Because they know it's not enough to simply chip in themselves. They have to share, they have to encourage and inspire enough other people to chip in, because it's only when those funds come together in order to reach that goal that the project can actually happen. And if you're a social enterprise that is looking to make a difference by trading in the marketplace, by offering a good or service that people want, then crowdfunding is the perfect tool for you to launch. Because ultimately what you need is not just donors, you need customers, and that's what crowdfunding gives you. That you're raising that initial seed funding you need to launch, but at the same time you're identifying your first 100, your first 500, your first 1,000 customers. And this sets you up for success much more so than a simple grant would have. And at its most simple, what crowdfunding allows you to do is change the order. Now you can actually sell coffee or clothes or anything else first, up front. So instead of borrowing money, you're pre-selling products, and then you take that money that you've raised and you can actually spend that on producing the products without ever having to fall into debt along the way, and validating that your product and your company actually has an audience who want to be part of it. And so if you want to make crowdfunding work for you, it's an incredible tool, but it doesn't happen automatically. You'll have to work at it, you'll have to think about your story, you'll have to identify the communities who are going to respond to that story and figure out the tactics to get your story in front of them. And while you can't take success for granted, and it does take that commitment and work, it has an incredible success rate. Over 50% of all the projects on our site reach their funding goals, which compared to the success rate for an average grant application, to pitching to a venture capitalist investor, or asking the bank for a loan, is an incredible success rate.
My name's Natasha and I'm the community builder at StartSomeGood. And I'm here to give you a couple of lessons on what you can do before your campaign kicks off. Because trust me, once your campaign kicks off, you're going to be pretty busy. So, lesson number one, pre-prepare the content that you are going to share during your campaign. So that could be anything from emails to images for social media, to the tweets you're going to put out, to the letters you're going to send, to the press releases you're going to do. Pre-prepare this all before your campaign kicks off, so that once the campaign is live, you have all this ready to go. Secondly, you'll want to get people on board to support your campaign before the campaign kicks off. So you know that your best friends or your colleagues or your peers, if there are people you are confident that are going to support you, tell them about the campaign before it kicks off and get them to pledge on day one, so your campaign immediately has momentum. And finally, get people involved with your campaign before it kicks off. One example of a way you can do this is to ask your community what kind of rewards they want. This is going to do two things. Firstly, it's going to get people to engage and know about the campaign before it kicks off. And secondly, it's going to actually help you deliver the rewards that they want.
So a question I get asked a lot is, how much can I raise on your platform? And that seems like a logical question to ask me, right? I mean, I'm the expert, I run a crowdfunding platform. But the fact is, I'm not an expert on how much you can raise. You're the expert on that, because you understand better than I do the assets you have that will help you raise those funds. Your fundraising possibilities are not dictated by StartSomeGood or any other crowdfunding platform you might choose. They're dictated first and foremost by the effort you put in and by the story you have to tell. And so here's how you can think about it. Your possible fundraising goal is determined by your reach, times the propensity of the people you reach to support you times by the capacity that they have to support you. So what do I mean by your reach? I mean the total number of people you get your story in front of. What are the things that will dictate that or determine that? Well, of course, how hard you're prepared to work, how newsworthy your story is, how big is your existing community today, both your personal networks and friendships, but also if you're a pre-existing organization or project, what's your social media footprint look like? How many volunteers do you have involved? And then of the people you reach, of the people who encounter your story in one form or another, whether that's through PR or social media or person-to-person contact, or they see a poster at your university or whatever the case might be, how much do they care? What's their propensity to support you? And the final factor is how much do they have to give? Not everyone has the same amount of money on offer. But only you know the answer to this equation. Only you know what your reach might be, what your reach is today and how hard you're prepared to work to expand it. Only you have a sense of, for the issues that you care about, how many other people care about those issues as well. How are you going to reach those people? And finally, you know who they are better than I do or we do. And so you know what their ability to support you might look like and whether they have the funds to contribute.
So how long should your campaign be? A lot of people think that a longer campaign is actually going to equal more money, but this isn't necessarily the case. Most of our best campaigns have been somewhere between 30 and 45 days. And why is this? Why isn't it that a longer campaign equals more money? Well, all crowdfunding campaigns, the activity and dynamic of them look something like this. So, if this is time and this is activity or pledges, there will always be a huge surge in the start when there's this, all this excitement and buzz around the launch. All the people who really want to be the first people to get involved will get involved then. The same thing goes at the end. There will always be a surge in activity towards the end of a campaign as a deadline approaches. A lot of people work to deadlines. They'll respond to the fact that, that's the last day that they can support. And there will always be a lull in the activity of a campaign right here in the middle. When some of the excitement of the launch has died off and things like that, all the initial supporters have already pledged. By having a longer campaign, you only stretch out this lull in the middle, and that can actually be a campaign killer. Again, you imagine yourself stumbling across a campaign that's sitting on the same, that no activity has gone on with it over a couple of days. You're going to look at that. You're not going to be very inspired to support that campaign because nothing's going on there. So by stretching out your campaign further, you simply stretch out this lull in the middle. So ideally, 30 to 45 days is plenty of time for your campaign. So reward-based crowdfunding acts in the way that people pledge to your campaign and they get some sort of reward in return. But rewards are actually when you can be really creative and get people really excited about your campaign. There are some obvious things that you can do for rewards. So swag, things like t-shirts, KEYRINGS, stickers and things. If you have some sort of logo, which you can use them on that. However, there are other things you can do if you don't have access to resources like that. One of the first and most basic rewards you can do are thank yous or acknowledgement, and these can be really powerful rewards for people. A simple acknowledgement that they've pledged to your campaign. This might be via social media, this might be via a handwritten note, and you can get really creative in the ways that you do this. Other things you can think about are what kind of experiences can you offer people from your team and from the skills and resources they have access to.
Now you should know what you need to do to run a successful crowdfunding campaign, but before you go, we just want to leave you with 4 key takeaways. First of all, crowdfunding is not about crowds. It's a peer-to-peer fundraising method that will require you to reach out into and engage with the communities around you to inspire their support.
Secondly, with around half of all campaigns succeeding, it's a fundraising method with one of the highest success rates. But remember, you have to work for that success.
Thirdly, it's fantastic for social enterprise. If you're launching a product or service, this is a great way to sell the first batch of your products before you've even paid to produce them to your most passionate supporters, who will then help you push it out there and succeed once you launch.
And finally, crowdfunding is fun. With rewards, deadlines, and goals that have to be met, it's one of the most fun and engaging forms of fundraising out there.
So now you know what you need to do. What good will you start?